The attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 was the result of complex geopolitical tensions and Japan's aggressive expansionist ambitions in Asia. Japan's militaristic government sought to secure resources and expand its empire, which led to conflicts with China and strained relations with the United States. In response to U.S. economic sanctions and to neutralize the American Pacific Fleet as a threat, Japan planned a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. The attack on Pearl Harbor occurred on December 7, 1941. The choice of this date was significant as it was a Sunday morning, and the military personnel at the base were relatively relaxed and not expecting an attack. Pearl Harbor is situated on the southern coast of Oahu, one of the main islands of Hawaii. It was an essential naval base for the United States and served as the home port for the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The attack was carried out by the Imperial Japanese Navy, under the command of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Yamamoto had developed the plan for the attack, which was known as Operation Z. The primary objective of the Japanese attack was to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet, particularly the battleships, aircraft carriers, and other critical warships stationed at Pearl Harbor. By doing so, Japan sought to prevent the United States from interfering with its military expansion in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. To achieve the element of surprise, the Japanese task force, consisting of 6 aircraft carriers, operated under strict radio silence and maintained a low profile during their journey to Hawaii. This helped them avoid detection by U.S. intelligence and radar. The Japanese attack force comprised a total of 353 aircraft, including torpedo bombers, dive bombers, horizontal bombers, and fighter planes. These aircraft were launched from 6 aircraft carriers: Akagi, Kaga, Soru, Hiru, Shikaku, and Zuikaku. The attack commenced at approximately 7:55 a.m. local time and lasted for about 2 hours. The Japanese aircraft targeted various key locations in and around Pearl Harbor. The first wave of the attack focused on crippling the U.S. battleships and aircraft. Within the first few minutes, Japanese torpedoes struck the battleships USS Oklahoma and USS West Virginia, and bombs hit the USS Arizona and USS California. The second wave of the attack, launched at around 9 a.m., targeted the maintenance facilities and remaining ships. The shipyard, repair shops, and fuel storage areas were hit, further impairing the U.S. fleet's ability to recover quickly. The surprise attack resulted in a devastating loss of life for the U.S. military personnel. 2,403 Americans were killed, including 68 civilians, and 1,178 others were wounded. Additionally, 188 U.S. aircraft were destroyed, and 5 battleships were sunk or heavily damaged. The USS Arizona was the most heavily damaged battleship, exploding and sinking within minutes, taking 1,177 crewmen with it. The USS Oklahoma capsized, leading to the loss of 429 crew members. The USS California, USS West Virginia, and USS Nevada also suffered significant damage but were later salvaged and repaired. The Japanese also targeted U.S. airfields and hangars, destroying or severely damaging numerous American aircraft on the ground. The day after the attack, on December 8, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed the nation in a speech that would become known as the Day of Infamy Speech. He asked Congress to declare war on Japan, and they did so promptly, marking the formal entry of the United States into World War II. The attack on Pearl Harbor led to declarations of war against Japan by several Allied nations, including the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. The surprise assault galvanized support for the war effort and united the Allied forces against the Axis powers. The attack exposed a significant vulnerability in U.S. military preparedness and strategic intelligence. The US had underestimated the threat of a Japanese attack on its Pacific possessions, and the loss of battleships and aircraft carriers forced a strategic shift in how the US conducted the war in the Pacific. The attack on Pearl Harbor fueled a surge of anti-Japanese sentiment in the United States. The media, politicians, and some military officials used the attack to promote an us versus them mentality, leading to the unjust internment of over 120,000 Japanese Americans, the majority of whom were US citizens. Pearl Harbor is often regarded as a critical turning point in World War II. Before the attack, the United States had been largely neutral in the conflict, providing support to the Allies but not actively engaging in combat. The attack changed that, prompting the US to fully commit to the war effort and take on a leading role in the Allied war against the Axis powers. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's speech delivered on December 8, 1941, was a defining moment in American history. In his address, he declared December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, and called for a declaration of war against Japan. The speech served to rally the American people and garner support for the war effort. Before the attack on Pearl Harbor, World War II had primarily been a European conflict. The attack expanded the war's scope, bringing the United States and other nations into the Pacific theater, making it a truly global war. The memory of the attack on Pearl Harbor remains an indelible part of American history, finally forcing the US into the war, and marking a major turning point in the fortunes of the Nazis and Japanese imperial forces. The event serves as a somber reminder of the human cost of war and the need for preparedness and vigilance against potential threats. The USS Arizona Memorial, built over the sunken battleship, stands as a national monument to honor the lives lost in the attack and symbolizes the resilience of the American spirit in the face of adversity.